For the first time in history, the party that ended apartheid in South Africa is losing ground. The African National Congress, Nelson Mandela's party, failed to get 50% of the vote in local elections held this week. President Cyril Ramaphosa of the ANC party was booed Monday as he arrived at a polling place in Johannesburg to cast his ballot. Voters say Nelson Mandela's Liberation Party has not held up its end of the deal.
There are so many unfinished business, like as I mentioned, the road. Yeah. They promised us that we'll have a hospital in this place, but yet we don't have a hospital now.
Voting, expecting changes from our leaders. As you can see that there's no water here. There's no sanitary things. We are living under shacks, and most of the people here are unemployed. Poverty, crime is too high, and we're expecting them to fight crime as well.
And joining me now is Joanna LeBlanc. She's national security law and Africa policy expert. And Joanna, from the story that we just saw there, hearing those comments from people on the ground there in South Africa talking about the ANC and not meeting its needs to, one, get rid of poverty, two, to provide infrastructure. Is the legacy of Mandela in trouble here?
I will say certainly the African National Congress Party is in need of revitalization. As we know, South Africa has a population of roughly 56 million. Out of the 56 million, you have 40 million eligible voters. Out of the 40 million eligible voters, roughly 26 million registered to vote. But unfortunately, the voter turnout was at roughly 8 million. Now, some could argue that the reason voter turnout was so low is because, as we know in South Africa, a Monday was a holiday. It was designated because it was a long holiday. Folks decided to stay home and use it as just an additional day to hang out instead of actually going out to vote. But the reality is that the party has significant issues and has been on the decline since 2004. So there needs to be a better approach in terms of re-energize the youth. And also there's a conversation around corruption from high-level officials within the party. Mm-hmm. You look at President Zuma, who was accused of corruption. Ramaphosa currently is up for re-election in 2022. And we wonder what will happen considering the numbers that we see coming out of this current elections. But the people are not happy with the ANC. The ANC has a lot of work to do. And you have young people like Songezo Masebe, whom I went to school with at GW Law, who's a bright young leader. These are the kind of people that the ANC needs in order to bring people to the ballot box and to vote.
All right, so let's talk about this just a little bit further then. Is this really an indictment of Mandela's legacy, or is it one where the current leaders of the ANC, since Nelson Mandela's death, have abdicated their responsibility to their constituents and to the people of South Africa, young and old, to pave way for a future? Keeping in mind, one of the quotes from Nelson Mandela was, "Real leaders must be ready to sacrifice all for the freedom of their people." Would you say that the ANC leadership has done that?
Well, what I can tell you that the ANC leadership has been suffering for quite some time now. We are looking at, when it comes to South Africa, there is a roughly 8 million people who are unemployed in South Africa right now. And we know that South Africa was one of the hardest hit countries on the African continent when it comes to COVID-19. So the COVID-19 crisis has further exacerbated the unemployment problems that South Africa was facing, and there's been a host of other issues. The party of Papa Madiba again has been on a decline since 2004, and there needs to be new faces. There needs to be new promises, and not just promises. Certain actions must take place, and especially when it comes to increasing the number of people who are working, who have jobs, who have access to health care, and a host of issues in the various municipalities across South Africa. So I am sure that Papa Madiba is turning in his graves right now to see what has come to the ANC party in South Africa.
Yeah, and so Joanna, what we're seeing here then, as you've alluded to, is a generational shift. We're seeing generational change in the civil rights movements here in the United States as well, where the younger generation is moving up saying Black Lives Matter and going out to execute a plan to make the world and the United States understand that Black lives do matter. Is that what we're seeing happening in South Africa, hearing from some of the young people there talking about fix these roads, stop the poverty?
Absolutely, Kelly. And I always tell people this: if you understand the civil rights movement here in America, or you understand the existing challenges impacting Black and Brown people here in America, it is essentially the same issues that people are faced with in South Africa. So you have to energize the youth. And there's an issue of voter disfranchised, and I believe the commission that is responsible for elections is probably going to be hit with a lawsuit, because you had people voting more than once. You had people voting at the wrong polling stations, which ultimately impacted the election results. So the agency, the entity that is responsible to ensure free, fair, transparent, and inclusive elections is probably going to be slapped with a lawsuit because of voting irregularities during this last election on Monday.
And those young leaders that you're talking about, Joanna, are they willing to step up and try to get it involved in running local elections and national elections to have a resurgence of Mandela's leadership and his outreach to South Africa and the world?
Well, Kelly, what I can tell you is that there's not a shortage of those leaders in South Africa. But what I have noticed is that just like the United States, right, there is a process. You have the older generation who are leading the movement, who are at the forefront of these various conversations, who are running for different offices or positions across South Africa. So therefore, the young people, you see that they have to go through an appropriate channel. It's kind of like it's not quite your time yet, so you have to wait until it's your time to actually run for office. But again, what I can tell you is the young people in South Africa, they are energized, they are ready to fight, and they are ready for a new South Africa where regardless of your race, regardless of your socioeconomic status, one can actually pursue life, liberty, and happiness, and obviously better economic opportunities.
And that in and of itself is the universal dream. I'll end with this quote from Mandela. It says, "It's in the character of growth that we should learn both from pleasant and unpleasant experiences." Perhaps they're learning now from this unpleasant experience to form a better leadership and service to their people. Joanna LeBlanc, national security law and Africa policy expert, thanks again for joining us.